Hello and welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. Kay Murray, Shaka Hislop and Stevie Nicol here in the studio, continuing with the talk on the fallout from Manchester United's loss in Copenhagen in the Champions League. There's been a lot said about this in the press, as you can imagine. We also have Stewart Robson and Mark Ogden joining us. Obviously, we wheeled Craig Burley out yesterday after a Manchester United loss. We've had to do the same with Mark Ogden the day afterwards. But you were actually there, Mark. How bad was it? How bad is it?
How bad was it? I can't think of a crazy game that I've ever been to. I've been to a few, but that last night was just, you know, after 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you're thinking, this is United, turn the corner, best performance of the season, they're going to win this 3 or 4, 5-0. And then Rashford gets sent off and it all, you know, the bottom falls out of it. And from that point on, you know, as I said in my copy, they won the game twice and still lost. And that's Man United this season, because the way that they capitulated after going 3-2 ahead with the penalty, they should have closed the game down. They should have shut up shop. Even though they were down to 10 men, they should have done better. And it was chaotic. And, you know, Diogo Dalot, Rafael Varane, Wan-Bissaka, that defensively, they're just not good enough. I mean, Varane's got a great pedigree. He's got great, you know, Champions League winner, but they're not good enough. And I think the problem United right now is that no matter how many times they score, the defenders just aren't up to the job. And that is why they keep conceding the goals. You know, Rasmus Højlund is the joint top scorer in the Champions League this season, and he's lost every game he's scored in. So that shows you where the problems are. It's at the back. And it's a vicious circle, really, because Ten Hag isn't getting the best out of these players. He really isn't. You know, 9 defeats already this season. He's not doing something right. But with those defenders, he can never get it right. And then January comes, he can't rebuild a full defence in January. So it's a real mess, because I don't see a way out of this until the end of the season, when they could have a root and branch change and bring players in and get players out. But right now, he hasn't got the defenders to defend. And when that's the case,
this is more on the players then than on the coach?
Well, I think it is more on the players, because I think at least Ten Hag changed things against Copenhagen. He went with 2 wingers in a traditional sense. He had Rashford on the right, Garnacho on the left. He tried to move things around a bit. But the players, they're not good enough. The defenders certainly aren't good enough. And he needs to change that, but he can't change it till January. And realistically, he's not going to bring in 4 or 5 new defenders, so he's stuck with what he's got. And I don't think even Pep Guardiola could get that defence playing well.
Would you agree with that, Stuart?
To a certain degree, yes. The defenders didn't defend particularly well, but it's not just about, you know, you're talking about defending as a team. You know, the midfield players, and that's one of the problems that Manchester United have got, that their midfield players aren't good defenders either. I know Eriksen was taken off at half-time, but he's a player that can't get around the pitch anymore. He can't defend. I've never thought that Bruno Fernandes, whether he's playing on the right, whether he's playing as a central midfield player, whether he's playing in behind the front 2, he doesn't do his job defensively well enough. Garnacho doesn't do his job well enough. He'll run around, but he doesn't understand the defensive side of the game at the moment. And I would say the same with Dalot playing at left-back. He got his body position wrong on a couple of occasions. Wan-Bissaka made the bad pass that Onana had to deal with, which eventually ended up with being the equaliser. So there's lots of things wrong with Manchester United when they haven't got the ball. Yes, Højlund looked a threat when he was going forward, and will do, because he's got a bit of pace. He's decent on the ball. He can hold up the play. So he's a very good player. But defensively, all over the field, Manchester United aren't good enough. And it's not the back 4 and the goalkeeper at the moment.
Just to go back to what Ten Hag's had to say there, it's just interesting to see what he picked out, saying they're disappointed because we played good, also saying that the squad's resilient and that there is spirit and there is fight there. Is that something you see?
Was it 9 defeats in 16 or 17? Was that fighting spirit?
But what about when we see these late turnarounds for them, when we have seen them come late? Does that mean they are still fighting for this coach?
No, because they got... He's talking about they haven't had any luck. I mean, the penalty they got, it doesn't get any luckier than that. And coincidentally, when he's talking about the goals they lost, you know, he doesn't mention that the opposition were in the same boat. They lost the penalty for exactly the same decision, but he conveniently doesn't mention that. So listen, it's almost regardless of how many breaks they do get, they really contribute to their own downfall. You know, they never lost 4 goals because Copenhagen, who had a man up, cut them apart, sliced them open with great incisive passing and moving it. There was nothing like that. All they did was throw balls in the box and scored 4 goals, pretty much. I mean, and you want to turn around and start talking about fight and spirit? I mean, come on, how about organisation? first and foremost, you're down a man, so what do? You go 4-4-1 and you don't let anybody through. And particularly when you go 3-2 up, you make yourself as rock solid as you possibly can. Not be wide open. Garnacho's still standing on the left wing at times. So he can talk about things going against him. Has there been things going against him? There have been. But as I said, you talk about contributing to your own downfall. I mean, look at the number of red jerseys that are in there. I mean, it's incredible. They can't defend.
For me, there's a lot here. There's a lot to unpack in this game, in what Ten Hag said, in Manchester United's own capitulation. First of all, let me just say, as far as VAR and decisions go, apparently VAR is against everybody in world football. Nobody is benefiting from VAR decisions. I don't know how that works. Everybody's complaining, is benefiting no one. So let's just leave that to the side. Manchester United, and I think, show that, and this has been a lot of senior complaints about this version of Manchester United. I don't think this team can roll their sleeves up and really grind out a result. I don't think this team is capable of scrapping for a point, scrapping to see a game out. And as the guys were discussing yesterday, there's also an air of arrogance around this team that is not justified. No, I don't think it simply is not justified. And as much as you're down to 10 men, you do give up 2 late goals. Okay, maybe you don't get to readjust, but then halftime comes, you make that readjustment, you go up. You have to be able to roll your sleeves up, get a little bit dirty, and grind that result out. And in talking about, well, yes, but we're down to 10 men, I can't help but think of Liverpool going 2 down at Spurs and come within minutes of getting a draw. That's because they rolled their sleeves up. They're prepared to work, to be ugly, to win that point. Against a Spurs team that are far better than Copenhagen. Let's be honest about here. And you are and Liverpool an extra man down. So if you do want to put yourself in that bracket with the top 4 in European football and a top 4 in English football, and I say that knowing full well that Manchester United finished top 4 and Liverpool didn't last season, you've got to be able to see this out. And quite simply, they didn't. And to start pointing fingers, for me, I think, yes, you could look at the opening 20 minutes or half an hour as how good it was, but to achieve anything, you've got to be able to do both, sometimes in the same game.
I said it earlier, organisation, right? You don't need to have the greatest players in the world to defend properly with organisation. You don't. There's worse players than the names on the back of those Man United jerseys that have defended and showed real spirit. I mean, he's talking about spirit. Did anybody put their body on the line for the 4th goal? I mean, Dallow's making himself smaller rather than bigger. So, organisation, number 1, 100% is down to one person, the manager.
So speaking of the manager then, Robbo, is there any way for Erik Ten Hag to turn this around?
I think he's going to struggle at the moment. You look at the way they're playing, and I go back to the defensive qualities or lack of defensive qualities that they've got. They haven't got enough energy in midfield. We talked about not defending the box there when balls came into the box. No one was actually getting out to stop the cross coming in the first place. That last one, the bloke had, 10 yards of space. Bruno Fernandes doesn't get out there. He can just cross the ball in. And then you've got problems trying to defend it. Erik Ten Hag has got a problem defensively with the team. There's no question about that. How you turn that around is by working hard on the training field, getting your organisation, as Stevie's just said, making sure you defend with determination. I'm not sure that Manchester United players have got it in them, or Erik Ten Hag is organising the team well enough to get results. It's a massive problem for him at the moment. I'm not sure he can turn it round.
So obviously there's a lot of talk about who could be the next Manchester United manager if Erik Ten Hag is to get his marching orders. The odds look like this. It's Zinedine Zidane at the top of the list. Can you cast your eyes down to the bottom there? Because there's so much on Steve Nicol now. Thanks to our esteemed colleague, Dan Thomas. 500 to 1. This is a fact.
Save your money.
So anyway, Zinedine Zidane at the top of that list. I suppose there are two questions here, Mark, in who could and who would. But who would you actually like to see United go for?
Well, first of all, I think with Stevie, let's be honest, the Glazers like to do things on the cheap, but I don't think he could buy him out of his ESPN contract, so we can forget about that. I mean, the problem that United have got right now, I mean, one of the many problems they've got is that there isn't an obvious candidate that's waiting for a job. I mean, there's nobody out there right now, you think. There's no Thomas Tuchel available or Pochettino, they've got jobs. So they have to be imaginative. And the Glazers and Richard Arnold haven't got the imagination to find a coach. So I suppose we're waiting there for the new regime of Jim Ratcliffe, whenever that happens, a 25% stake and then taking over the football side of it, whenever they come in to make a decision. But there's nobody right now you can say, yeah, you know, he's got potential. I mean, the one coach in Europe that right now is a rising star that has got potential is Xabi Alonso, but he's not going to go to Man United. I mean, he's an ex-Liverpool player, he's a Liverpool great. There's no way he's going to Man United. So they've got a problem. But, you know, they're going to stick with Ten Hag for the foreseeable future because they've got other issues to address, as we know, with the takeover and all that kind of carry on. So he's there. He has to sort the defence out. And I agree with what Robbo said before about the whole nature of the team. The team is too slow, it's too mobile, doesn't defend as a team. But I do think that the game seems to have lost the art now of defenders defending. You know, we go back to the old Arsenal team with the Arsenal back four and George Graham and these type of managers where they got the defence, the back four sorted out. And then from that platform, you can build a team that defends. Nobody seems to do that anymore. Everyone seems to want to attack, and it seems to have created defenders who can't do the basics, and that's what United have got. They've got a lot of defenders who can't do the basics, but Ten Hag is the manager that's paid to do the job of organising them, so he has to find a way. And maybe that's what's keeping him a job as well, the fact that there isn't anybody obviously out there that will take the job. Roberto De Zerbi, would he leave Brighton to go to Man United right now without knowing who his boss is, who the next boss might be? I just don't see it appealing to any top managers.
So you say he's sticking around for the foreseeable future, and that's what it looks like, Mark. But if it's losses to Luton and then Everton, is that still the case?
Well, he's safe until he's not safe, isn't he? I mean, if you lose at home to Luton and then go to Everton and don't win, I think it becomes inevitable that they have to make a change. But who is out there to take it on? I mean, that is the problem. That what they've done in the past, they've gone for the easy option, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer figured that he's so desperate to work for the club again that he will go back. But even then, there aren't many ex-United players out of work right now that want a job. You know, Wayne Rooney's got a job, Michael Carrick's got a job, and that's the sort of character that they'll be looking at because they've got recent history with the club. So it's a really kind of worrying situation for United because there's nobody available, and the so-called former players that would normally go down that route, that again, you know, they're in jobs or that, you know, they're not available. So I mean, Solskjaer's still available, so, you know, he might come back, but, you know, that's a bit of a backward step, isn't it? Maybe Stevie's the right guy, actually. Maybe
that's
Stevie
what I mean.
is the actual...
It's a process of elimination at this point, isn't it? So if it was Stevie Nicol, Robbo, would you like to be his assistant and play bad cop?
I'll tell you what, Robbo and I can sort it out.
No, I couldn't work with Stevie Nicol. I mean, it'd just be a mess, wouldn't it? Me and him in charge. Good gracious.
I've seen Stevie Wrigley's.
What a bigger mess than it already is.
I've seen Stevie Wrigley's. Given Stevie's leaf-raking abilities, I'm not sure I'd put a wager on him managing Manchester United either.
He'd get morale up there, though, wouldn't he?
Oh, good. I'm not so sure here.
All right, Robbo, who would you like to see in this role? Who do you think would be a good fit if they were able to get them?
Oh, I mean, unfortunately, 2 years ago, I'd have said Antonio Conte because he was guaranteed almost to win things, and he was playing some good football. But the last couple of jobs he's had, he's gone ultra defensive, so he's not the man. I still think that Nagelsmann could be a top-class manager. It depends how he does with Germany, obviously, but he's a manager that I think's got a lot of ability and an up-and-coming manager, because that's really what you would like. And I would agree with Mark. If Xabi Alonso, he's the man that everybody's talking about at the moment. If he was available, he'd be the excellent choice, but he's not available.
Yeah, well, actually, Dan Thomas did put out a Twitter poll today as well. He's been pretty busy with this whole topic, Dan. He asked, would you like to see Steve Nicol as the next United manager? The two options were yes and yes. It was a unanimous decision. 100% of people would like to see this, Stevie. So the people have spoken.
Oh, well, I guess I can make a couple of phone calls from us.
Goodness
So there
me.
you go. You heard it from the man himself, Mark.
Yeah.
You need to put that news out there in Manchester while you can. Stevie Nicol is the next Manchester United manager. Love
Just
that
the man
one.
for the job.